Okay, who's next? There we go. I love everyone's willingness, by the way, to be in the hot seat. I know it's not super easy.
So I'm really shy as well.
That's why I said what I said.
I'm sort of trapped between two ideologies.
Okay.
One being become yourself, be yourself, and the other surrender yourself and become nothing. And so I'm reaching out in a lot of different paths, and I have a lot of different teachings that I'm drawing from, and it's a little discombobulating at this point.
Okay.
And I know there's a place that I want to be with this, and I feel this sort of thirst, this just really deep thirst, and I just need a little bit of a direction of which way to face, I think.
I'm pretty biased this way.
Okay.
So if you want an unbiased answer, I'm probably the worst place to come for that. I am of the belief, basically, based on watching humans, that one of the worst things you can do is to try to be absent of yourself. If you're going to buy into the idea that you're an extension of source energy, you can find source energy in yourself. The reason that people do so well with philosophies like be absent of yourself, become nothingness, things like that, is because it's much easier, for I don't actually think it's really easier, but we tell the story that it's easier to go from a space of extreme resistance to letting go of thought. So the reason they teach that is the same reason that they teach just be in the now. Because if we can do that, if we can just be in the now, then the rest of this falls away, and then life becomes a lot easier. But you still can't escape yourself, can you? Which is where you're running into this wall. So you call it, I'm running into a wall both ways. I am going to tell you, you're running into a wall one way, which is that you keep trying to be absent of an identity which you chose to begin with.
So what's behind the sort of the higher self, the identity, the play, the theater, all of this? How can we sort of, what's the one step behind that? Or the all the way steps behind that?
The all the way step is oneness. Unconditional love, same thing.
Okay.
But you already are that.
Right.
And you did not come down into this physical dimension to become that. You came down into this physical dimension to really fully be the identity that you are here.
Okay.
So it's interesting that living beings, they choose to come down into physical life, get into spiritual practice to become non-beings, and Source's perspective is kind of like, it's kind of like, wait, you wanted to ride the roller coaster, what happened?
That's what it feels like. I feel like
Yeah.
I don't want to ride the roller coaster.
Commit to the roller coaster and you'll change your mind.
Okay.
Most of the suffering is the resistance to life. Just ask someone who's suicidal.
Right.
We will continue to suffer if we have a resistance to being here, and most humans haven't made the decision to really be here. I know I spoke a bit earlier about the fact that we had to, with my previous client that committed suicide, we had to have the conversation. Are you really going to commit to life, or are you going to commit to death? Because what's really killing us is living halfway in and halfway out. We're going to continue to suffer if we're like, well, I'm going to kind of want to be here, but kind of not. I don't really want to be here, but I still got to eat food. I don't really want to be here, but I still got to pay bills, right? So we've got this 1 foot in, 1 foot out way of being, and we will suffer as long as we don't commit to it. So and it's my opinion that the best thing we can do spiritually is to completely commit to it. I would not have chosen this identity if there was not something in this perspective for me. So instead of being like, well, should I be connected to me, or should I basically be absent of me and sort of sacrifice myself on the cross and say, this is just a temporary identity that means nothing, I should 100% see what's in it for me. That means put both feet on the roller coaster, go for the ride.
And can I just hear you tell me that I'm here by choice, that it's not some kind of like karmic punishment or something?
Oh, I love it. Well, it's easy. We all feel like that. At some point in our lives, we all feel like that. What did I do in the past life to deserve this moment? It's just because we forget that there's something in it for us. I promise you, and it will be your understanding, the more you commit to this life, the more you're going to get out of it. That's just how it is. Anything you focus on, you're going to get more out of. So if I completely commit to this life, my life will start to really yield more to me. And then I might see the benefit of why I might have come in. Right. And once you see that, you're not going to be telling that story anymore because you'll see the benefit. Nobody who sees the benefit asks that question. It's highly understandable that you're in the place you're in. Most people that had had your kind of experiences in life would be like, I kind of want to get out of Dodge.
Yeah, and it's easy to get drawn into this idea of sort of disillusion and surrendering the surrenderer and just becoming this sort of emptiness. And I think that I have felt experiences related to that, but then I still wake up and I have this body and these things to do, and it's hard to reconcile those things.
That's because they shouldn't be reconciled.
Okay.
You'll find that once you completely commit to it and once you start milking life for all it's worth, there is that kind of same feeling that you're getting with that unity. It's not an emptiness. Emptiness is not a good word for it, but you know, that there's no separate self. You'll start to sort of feel that, but it'll be feeling it through the beauty that is here, not through trying to disconnect completely from the system, which you can't do because you're still tied to this identity. So what you keep talking about, it's ironic, but what we keep talking about when we talk about taking ourselves out of the program, completely disconnecting, you're talking about death. So you're in the same kind of position, you see, that my previous client was in. Are we committing to death or life? Doesn't that seem more like the question?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, the intention behind it is sort of, well, I want this to be the last one. Like, I want to get it all right this time so I don't have to do it again. And I'm just getting really wound up in that, so.
If you were willing to care how you feel, which you're not yet, if you were willing to care how you feel above every other thing in your life and do only what made you feel emotionally good, you would start to see so much beauty here that in X amount of months or years, you would not want to leave. It's an ironic question that they actually asked the Buddha. Are you excited that this is your last life, or that you came back and that you had a last life, that you have a choice now to come back? Everyone has a choice, but you know, in that religion they were practicing, they didn't think they did. And his response was, if you could see the beauty that I see every day, you would want to come back again and again.
So, but we're choosing to not see that?
Yeah, by virtue of focus.
Okay.
And it's an interesting design, but humans are designed mentally to focus on what they don't like. Because you're survival-based creatures. That's how you got to this. So it's sort of a dichotomy here. You come into the physical dimension and you've got this entire system that is set up for survival. And if I have a system that's set up for survival, then I'm going to focus on what I don't like so that I can learn how to avoid that in the future. It's an expansion tool, so that we'll actually survive here in the third dimension long enough to expand by virtue of the third dimension. Make sense?
Yeah.
But now, the very thing which served us to live long enough is the very thing which keeps us back.
Okay. So, in terms of higher self-consciousness, is that something that's just like us? I understand the idea of us being an extension of that, but is our consciousness sort of like, does the higher consciousness have a separate consciousness than us, or are those just both embodied? So does the higher consciousness have attachment and desire as well? Okay.
And if we want to tell the story that it has desire, it has the desire that's your desire. Whatever you want, it agrees with. It's taking its hints from you.
Uh-oh.
I wouldn't say uh-oh. Nor would your higher self. You've been doing this dance for a long time. I'm going to focus so intently on what I don't like, and that is what I'm oriented towards, is noticing what I don't like. I'm going to do that with so much verve that simultaneously I give rise to that much of the opposite. So if someone like you could line up with yourself, start thinking thoughts which felt good to think, start paying attention to things which felt good to pay attention to, guess what happens? You now experience more joy than the average Joe does. because you've given birth to that much more joy by virtue of paying attention to the suffering.
Right.
I just think we're about done. Yeah. So that's the real crossroad. The crossroads for you is, am I done paying attention to things that don't make me feel good? Because you're still stuck there.
Yeah.
Because you care about being a good person who cares, and so you still focus on things that don't feel good to focus on. And you can't care about yourself and do that at the same time. You can't actually live a life that you'll want to survive and do that at the same time. So this is even a crossroads.
Yeah.
The universe is calling you out.
It feels like that.
Yep. This is the call out. You ready for the call out? How bad does it have to get before you start prioritizing yourself? How bad does it have to get before you say, you know what, I really don't care whether somebody thinks I should or shouldn't do this thing, whether I should or shouldn't pay attention to this news program, what you fill in the blank. I'm not going to do something that doesn't feel good emotionally to me because I can't effing afford it anymore. Do you feel that amount of energy?
So does that mean just moving in the direction of things, even if they sort of arbitrarily? I mean, I feel
Yes.
my judgment mind being like, how dare you want to go live on a beach somewhere and like hang out and like have a sort of mediocre job and just do whatever, but that's what I would really like to do.
And the universe would say through my lips that if you do anything other than that which you know that you would do to make yourself happy, then you will live a hell of a life. It's an interesting story that we tell because a lot of people will come here and they say, well, wait a minute, if you tell me to just follow my bliss, I'm going to go sit on the couch for the next 20 years. It's not true. We only feel that way because guess what? We've been beating ourselves over the back like an ox driver for these amount of years. Now, the universe would say, go sit on a couch. Please. Because guess what happens? You'll sit on the couch, you'll be guilty for a little bit, then you'll realize it feels good to sit on the couch, and then after a while you'll get bored and you'll start moving again. I wish people would just let themselves quit their jobs and go do something fun for once in their life.
I do a lot of things that, I mean, maybe aren't like fun in the normal sense, but I'm driven to them and I always make them happen, or the universe makes them happen, or whatever. So I feel already like a pretty indulgent person.
Oh my God. Ooh. Okay.
I mean, when I wanted.
Oh, that was so wrong on so many levels. See, first of all, you're like one of the least self-indulgent people. Second of all, the idea that there can be such a thing as an indulgent person. There's no words for that. What do you think you came down here for?
Well, mostly to see you. And
This is a theme park. It's difficult to explain that to physical humans that have been living as a byproduct of our physical society that says these are the things you need to do to live a successful life in the life that we think you should be living. And P.S., living here is not about fun, it's about you doing what needs to be done. A little frustrating from source perspective. Wait a minute, the entire reason we invented the third dimension in the first place so you guys would figure out what you like. This is like a buffet table. Literally, I want you to start thinking of life this way.
okay.
Coming from another person who is massively suicidal. This is a buffet table. You come down to this physical dimension, you've got all kinds of different experiences, the same way that when you walk into a cafe that has a buffet table, you've got all kinds of different dishes. It's not a problem if a dish is on there that you don't like. You don't have to put it on your plate. The lie that everyone else is going to tell you is you have to eat that crappy, potato salad that you don't want to taste, because that's what people do.
And you have to figure out how to like it,
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing.
And you can't. Not a single human being on this earth is capable of lying to themselves and trying to convince themselves they like something they don't like. So start thinking of this like a buffet table. What experience do I want to have? You just gave us the answer. I want to have the experience of living on the beach. Then do it. That's exactly what you came here to do. I wanted to have the experience of sitting on stage in front of people. I'm doing it. That's what I came here to do. Same goes for every single person here. This is a buffet table. What do you want to have on your plate? You don't have to be affected by stuff you don't want on your plate. Make sense?
Yeah.
So everyone came here to be indulgent. Your plate's limitless too, P.S., so it's not like at a buffet where you got a limited amount of space on your plate, so, oh my gosh, I really did want that, but I can't have it because I did this first. Unlimited. You can change your mind if you want to. You can scoop crap back in the pile. Oh, I tried that. That was crappy. Now let's just do that. See? That's kind of the story earlier with this one. Oh, I spent all that money on that crap career. Yeah, guess what? Totally well spent money, because now we know we don't want to do that. You don't know whether you hate potato salad until you put it on your plate and try it, and then you're like, yeah, that sucked. Let's put it back. See, there's no judgment. You're in a buffet table. The buffet table is called life. You get to have whatever experience you want to experience. And for you to deny yourself of that kind of experience is what's going to cause you a serious amount of pain. So for you, this is going to take a certain amount of bravery for you to care enough how you feel that you start looking at life this way. And what you'll notice is that you have been around a great many people who keep telling you these lies because they tell themselves these lies. I need to keep this crap job because if I don't keep this crap job, then see how they scare themselves into doing things they don't want to do? How well is that working for them?
And it's mostly in different spiritual traditions, people that are imparting that message to me, which makes it seem more convincing. And yeah.
This is why the most important thing you can do relative to spirituality is to be in touch with your own spirituality. I am really done. I can talk here all day long about what source perspective is, but I'm really done with spiritual people talking about how things are, period, the end, and not putting you in touch with your own connection to source. End of story. It doesn't matter what I say, what that spiritual teacher says, what that spiritual teacher says. Nobody has a higher connection to God than you. That means it doesn't matter what that guy says, doesn't make him right. Doesn't matter what I say on the stage, doesn't make me right. If it feels good to you, that's your indication that it's right for you. Does that make sense? So if I was going to sit up here and talk to you and say something that didn't emotionally feel good to you, didn't feel like some kind of relief, that's your indication that it's not right for you individually. Right. So here's an offering. Even I'm a buffet table. This is an experience you're having. Here's this bit of information. Do you want to put it on your plate? Now, by virtue of your emotion, you'll say, oh yeah, I like that one. That one benefits me. I'm putting it on my plate. That's all a spiritual teacher should be. They're not like an imparter of some truth that you can't access by yourself. But that's the problem. We sort of put them in that state.
Definitely.
The true spiritual teacher is the one that puts you in touch with your own sense of connection. Just so happens that that's emotion.
Yeah. But I feel like there's a fear there that if I get caught up in emotion, I'm getting caught up in ego. And
who told you emotion had anything to do with ego?
Oh man, a lot of people.
Can you be sure?
I mean, I can be sure.
Here's a question. Does it feel emotionally good to you to think that you've been sort of stuck down here with this major enemy and you have to live in the same skin?
No, it doesn't feel good.
I don't think that serves anyone either. Makes you an enemy of yourself. True story. Ego's your best friend. Ego's what you came down here to experience. Ego doesn't want to suffer from itself any more than you do. It doesn't feel good to think that you've been put down here with an emotional system which is going to lead you sideways. It doesn't feel good to not be able to trust yourself. And from a spiritual perspective, not trusting yourself is about the worst thing you can do. How are you ever supposed to stay in alignment? How are you ever supposed to know what's right or wrong if you're not trusting yourself? And we can't do that when we keep telling this story. My emotions are there to ruin my life.
Yeah. Or to not be paid attention to or kind of discard.
Good, so here's the question. Do you think that this God we're dealing with, or this source we're dealing with, is a vindictive one?
No, I think that, I've definitely felt like an abandonment issue, but I felt like more like it was my fault that happened.
We are dealing with a loving universe. that means that anything you experience, whether it's ego or emotion or anything else, is put there because it will benefit you. Now, if we start looking for that side of the story instead of focusing on how it doesn't benefit us, we'll start really enjoying our lives. That sounds a lot better than where you are right now, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
A lot better.
So for you, it's literally this simple. I'm doing whatever feels good at the moment, regardless of how frivolous that sounds, because from a universal perspective, nothing I do is frivolous if it's in the name of joy. If you have to sit here and sniff a flower, that's not frivolous, that's joy. This sniffing a flower, if you're in an aspect of joy, matters more than you spending an entire day out of alignment. That's what everyone's rooting for, your guides, everyone. That's why this moment, you feel the energy in the room right now? The static energy is because everything has been leading up to this. There is silence in the room because everything in your life has led you to this moment. Do you care about yourself enough to do this?
I mean, I feel a little bit of a withdrawn sense, like there's a protest happening that I can't get a hold of exactly, but...
What do you protest? What happens if I do things because it brings me joy? That's the only criteria.
Then I have trouble sort of with the meaning of everything else.
So life has to mean something more than joy. Is it true?
I've believed it's true.
It's only true because you haven't tasted joy.
That feels true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you would allow yourself to taste what joy feels like for 10 seconds, you would never say that again. There wouldn't be anything more magnificent to experience. Purpose would feel the same as joy. See, you might tell this story about me. Ready? Obviously, her life has tons of purpose and there's more meaning. Why? Because she suffers so much and now she's here talking to the people of the world and that seems like a lot of purpose. Why do you think I do this job?
Because it brings you joy.
That's it. If I stopped liking this, if I stopped liking sitting in front of groups like this, I'd be skiing. I would stop this in 10 seconds. This is no more meaningful than me skiing down a mountain. Because we got to think about Source's perspective. And it knows its own expansion because of our joy. So if I sat here, even if I was helping a bunch of people on this planet, if I was not enjoying this experience, I would be actually serving universal perspective better skiing down a mountain.
That's good news.
It's very good news. Super good news.
Thank you very much, too.
Yeah.